Okay, let's try this again. I'm Deb. My vlog used to be called Life in My Lane. I decided to take that off. Just use my name because I like to be personal. This is my second try at this very video because when I started, my brain started to go and I dissociated. For those of you that do not know what dissociation is, it is your mind, your heart, whatever, cannot take what you are thinking or speaking of or whatever the case may be, or feeling. And your mind takes you away from that. Like, I spaced out. Like it's like you leave the situation, you leave the talk, you leave whatever's going on, and when you come back, you don't know what you said, you don't know what you've done. It's kind of like people say they space out, but what the difference is when you dissociate, you don't remember. Spacing out, you can hear things, you can, do what you're doing and whatever, but dissociation is so different than that. It's something that I struggle with all the time. All the time. Because I personally have some traumas that really, I'm not saying that my traumas are any worse than anybody else's, because everybody has their problems, everybody has their traumas, their bad things that happen to them, whatever the case may be. Sorry, I'm putting my laptop away. But some of my traumas take me to that place. My mind just shuts off. I'll keep talking. I'll keep doing what I'm doing, but my mind will not function, will not keep me in that frame of mind, because if it does, I cry. I have panic attacks, anxiety, PTSD, different effects, generalized anxiety effects, and sometimes even BPD. My bipolar 1 sometimes kicks in, but it kicks in a low. So when it goes in a low, all I had to do is go up. But anyway, what I would like to speak about, I spoke to a young lady today, and she was the most amazing listener. She claimed she didn't know what to say, but she said all of the right things. All of the right things. I gotta get this off. She made me feel as though she made me feel validated. She made me feel validated. She made me feel like no matter what happened to me, I'm still a good person. No matter how I handled it, I'm still a good person. She was very sweet. She was very, very, very cool. I don't know if she wants me to give her name out, but, it was just somebody that I met recently, and she's a doll face. And so is everybody else in that group that I met. There is not a person in that group that I do not like, that did not give me some kind of validation. So what I want to talk today about, tonight, is panic attacks, anxiety attacks, uh, generalized anxiety, and my PTSD. Okay, first off, I want to start with my PTSD because I had an issue that happened yesterday. I had 2 children with cerebral palsy. That was the beginning. Did you see that? I'm pretty sure you noticed it. I started to drift off, but I caught myself. Yesterday, I was at therapy. I go to group therapy. Yesterday, there was a group of handicapped adults who go round to the places that, local places that have therapy, group therapy, whatever, and they sing carols for them. There was a lady in a wheelchair, and she had cerebral palsy like 2 of my sons did. My one son, my third born son, he passed away at 19 months old. He wasn't supposed to make it but a year, the doctors said. And I know I said this on my last one. He was partially retarded and he had cerebral palsy. His cerebral palsy was here. And my second born son, he also was born with cerebral palsy. He had everything up here. His muscles is what ailed him. He had to learn how to use his hands, his arms, and still it was stiff. I remember an instance where I had my daughter and my son, Devin, the second born. He he was very protective of his food. And my little girl, who was, I think she was about 7 months old, she walked before she crawled. She got over to Devin, and he was in his special seat with his tray with his food. And she crawled up there, and she reached for his food, and he took his little baseball bat arm, and he knocked her right off the chair. And then he sat there and his eyes were huge. He said, "Mommy, I didn't mean it. She was going after my food." And he sounded like he had like cotton in his mouth. That's how he spoke. But, everybody that knew that little boy understood everything he said. I said, "Devin," I said, "it's okay. Don't worry about it." I said, I'll get her food. She's not hurt. And he started to cry, and I had to calm him down, just let him know that his sister was okay. I picked her up and she kissed him, and he hugged her with his baseball bat arms, and everything was okay. So I went and got her food, put her in her high chair, and she started throwing meat at Devin. She did not like meat for some reason. I would cut it very, very small, and she would eat the vegetables, but she would take the meat and she would throw it. It doesn't matter who was there, she threw that meat at them. And Devin got that side of that every now and then, and he'd be like, "Mommy, she's doing it again. She's throwing it." So, Devin was a very special kid. My daughter, she's okay. She was born normal. There was nothing at all wrong with her at birth. But she had a special bond with Devin. And so did Devin's older brother. If somebody hurt Devin's feelings, my oldest boy, I don't know if he would want me to mention his name on here or not, so I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to say my older boy. if somebody made Devin cry, like Devin would go out, he had an electric wheelchair, and all the neighborhood kids would play with him, and they'd go walk, and he'd go where he wanted to go, and they would follow him and make sure he was okay. And one day, my oldest son, brought Devin back to me, and he ran upstairs and he said, "Mom, come get Devin. Me and Nevin have to go." That was his friend. And I said, "Why? What happened?" He said, "That little girl and that little boy up on that side of the street," he said, "they called him retarded." So I had to see my oldest son. He was very short. He was very short until he was 13, 14, and finally started gaining some height. This little tiny 9-year-old and this really big 10-year-old took off on their bikes, and they went chasing these kids, and they beat them up for Devin's sake. And thing is I tried very hard to get that little boy to understand that he was not retarded like people would pick on him. And it was about that time I brought him up, and we cleaned his tears up, and I gave him a drink, and he calmed down, and he looked at me with those big blue eyes, and I looked at him. Hold on. I looked at him and I said, "Devin Cox," I said, "are you retarded?" He said, "No." I said, "Devin, are you retarded?" And he raised his voice and he said, "No." And I said, "Then what are you doing crying?" And he cried a little bit longer, and he calmed down, and he said, "Because it hurt my feelings." I said, "Don't you ever let people hurt your feelings. You let them call you whatever they want to call you. You know that you are only handicapped. And that is not a bad thing." I said, "You can do things. You are very smart." And, I gave him the whole spiel. And by the time he was done, he was smiling, and he was hugging me and kissing me and saying thank you. And he was about 6 or 7. I think he was 7. Yeah, that little boy, he passed away from his asthma one night. And I worked third shift, so I wasn't there. I didn't hear him in distress. And his dad didn't hear him in distress because he was sleeping with my little girl, and his bigger brother didn't hear him. See, the thing was he had hip surgery, and he could not sleep on a flat bed. He had to sleep like kind of tilted upward, which a recliner chair. So we went out and we bought him a good recliner chair. We kept him, in there really good. He learned how to crawl out of it in case something happened or he had to go potty or whatever the case may be. So he knew how to get out of the chair. And I came home one morning from work. And he was in the process of trying to get out of the chair. His father didn't know, his brother didn't know, but he couldn't breathe. And he tried to crawl out of the chair to holler for somebody. And I know that's what he did. Nobody told me that, but I know that's what he did. He was trying to get out of the chair to holler for somebody, But in the process of him getting out of the chair, he couldn't breathe no more. And he just passed away right there crawling out of the chair. When I got home, I realized that his wheelchair was still there. So that meant he did not go to school. Because he went to school a little earlier because the wheelchair, whatever. And when I saw the wheelchair there, I ran upstairs and I ran inside, and everything that I had in my hands went flying. And I ran over to him and I lifted him up and I held him. And he was already cold. He was already gray. That after they took him, you know, after the coroner took him, I took that chair and I threw it over. I threw it off the porch. We burned it. We took it out to my husband's mom's house and we burned it. One thing that I could not get rid of was his wheelchair. And I had that for a few years. And my husband got mad at the fact that I still had it. And I just couldn't get rid of it. And he took it one night while I was sleeping and he threw it over a mountain. He told me the truth about it. Because other people went with him and they helped him pick it up and throw it over the mountainside. That is where my anxiety and I believe my PTSD started really bad. I've always had anxiety since I was a teenager, but attacks started in my mid-30s, in my early mid-30s. And I'm sorry I keep crying. I don't mean to keep crying, but this little boy, he was just special. He was just very special. He always made me feel loved, and he always made me feel wanted. And I can't understand, this may hurt some people's feelings. And I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings. But this is where I started to disbelieve in religion. Because for the life of me, I cannot think or figure out what an all-loving God, why he would give somebody like Devin to a person, whether it be me or Tom, Dick, or Harry down the road, you know, and then at 9 years old, snatch that little boy away again. When he was pronounced dead, which I already knew he was, I totally dissociated. I think I was dissociated for days, because I don't really remember days after when he passed. If you don't remember what dissociation is, it's what your mind does to protect you. If there's something that your mind cannot handle, your mind will dissociate, will close off, whatever you want to call it, drift off, to keep your mind safe, to keep yourself safe. Yeah, and the PTSD, boy, that really started then. That I know. Because I always had, I'm not reading, I'm tearing a label off a bottle. Panic attacks started. Anxiety attacks started. I remember, I think it was that year or the year after. I think it was that same year. No. It was a couple years after, because my daughter was a little bit bigger. It was snowing, and they went to a really big hill, and they went sledding, or snow tubing, or whatever they did. And I couldn't go. I was still, a couple years into it, I was still messed up. And that's when the panic attacks started. I was laying on the couch and I was watching TV, no clue what I was watching. But it was before I stopped watching TV. And my chest seized up. And my lungs stopped going. And I laid there and I could not move. I was like, oh shit, I'm having a heart attack, or I'm having a stroke, or something like that. I got myself to very slowly roll over until I made myself fall off the couch. The pain in my chest was so bad that I could not breathe, that I could not move. When I fell onto the floor, I landed on my knees and my hands, and I just fell face first onto the floor. And that lasted for about 20 minutes. Finally, it started to go away. I felt better, except I had one hell of a headache. But I felt better after it went away. And I talked to my doctor about it, and my doctor said, you had a panic attack. She asked me if I knew what a heart attack felt like, and I said, no, I never had a heart attack. I don't know what that feels like. She goes, okay, well, a heart attack feels like what you had. Your chest tightens up, your muscles get tight, your head starts to hurt, your vision starts to blur, you know, you can't move. It's very hard to do anything. So yeah, that's where my panic attacks started. That was had to be about 3 years after Devin passed away. My little girl, my husband, and my oldest son, they were out sledding. They came back and they saw how sick I was. They saw, you know, how bad my color was, and they asked what happened, and I said, I don't know. I said, I just got a lot of pain in my chest, and my head hurt, and I couldn't breathe, and, you know, I had to fall off the couch to get off the couch. And my older son wasn't even my husband, because he had no care in the world. He didn't give a shit. He could have cared if he'd come home and I died. But my son, he said, Mom, he said, you have to go to the doctor and you have to find out what happened. So I listened to him, and I went to the doctor, and the doctor said it was 99% chance it was a panic attack, because they did whatever tests they did on me. They said I did not have a heart attack, I did not have a stroke. So with as severe as it sounded, to her it sounded like it was a panic attack. Anxiety attacks are pretty much the same, but not quite as harsh. But they are exactly the same. I'm sorry, I'm starting to get a little tight in the chest. But yeah, my panic attacks and that started a couple years after my son passed away. And part of that had to do with my husband, because my husband did not give a shit. the cops accused him of neglect, said that they were worried that he had done something to my son. But me being the naive little shit that I was, I said, no, he couldn't have done anything. And honestly, I don't think he did, because when I went in and I screamed up to him, all three of them almost fell down the steps. My husband was carrying my daughter, and my oldest son, he almost went down head first, because what came out of my mouth was Devin's dead. I didn't even look at him. I did look at him because I was holding him, but when Eddie and them came down, I said, Devin's dead. And I said, call 911, and you fucking do it now. And he did. He called 911 right away. So that's kind of why I think that, that they just didn't hear him struggling. I'm not going to get into the whole, I felt, what I felt at work, and I felt something was wrong. I really felt something was wrong around 3 o'clock. And I asked the coroner, I said, when did he die? About what time? And the coroner said he died right around 3 o'clock. And around 3 o'clock was my lunchtime, and I really felt hot. I really felt like something was very bad. And my friend said, well, you go home, go check what's wrong, because if there's something wrong, then you gotta get there. I said, I can't. So I didn't know. I stayed at work, and that's what I got when I got home, because I didn't go home when she told me to go home. I should have gone home. But, and that is what makes me feel so bad. It makes me feel like it's my fault, because I was not there. And I did not leave work to go check to see what was wrong. I didn't expect to cry, I'm sorry. But losing 2 children, I lost my third born son. Like I said before, I lost him. It was 1993 when he passed away. He was born in 1992. He was born in February. He died in October of the following year. And Devin, the real kicker, the real shitter, is because Aaron died in October and Devin died in November. So this is back to back. And then 1 week after Devin passed away, I had to have a birthday present for my 1-year-old daughter. She didn't even make it to 1 year old before he passed away. Those two would have been, they would have just been wonderful together. So I did that. I had a wonderful birthday for my daughter. Everybody that went to the funeral came to the birthday. And, I mean, not everybody, but all of the family, a few friends and whatever, they all came to her birthday party. And she had the most spectacular birthday party that a 1-year-old I've ever seen have. She had the kind of cake she liked. She had a dining room full of presents that she didn't understand at that time, she didn't understand. But she had a good time, but I could not get rid of the anxiety. The anxiety just hung on, hung on, hung on. It took years and medications to be able to get to work for that anxiety. And I've also learned a whole lot of coping skills. I meditate. I meditate as much as I can. There are times where I feel like I can't do it. You know, just because my mood is either down or, you know, whatever. But anxiety is it controls me. It really controls me. The attacks, nothing you can do when you have one. You have one. You get this pain. You get this pain. You just, the breathing gets hard. You know, there's nothing you can do. You have to just ride it out. And it took me many years after Devin passed away to learn that you have to ride that shit out. So I am still in therapy. I had a massive breakdown March of this year, and I have been steadily getting better, going to therapy, meeting people that do not judge me. For my emotions and for dealing with what I'm dealing with. They don't judge me. Oh, I'm not even sure if I finished the story, but there was a when we went up to listen to the music, there was, I know I told you this, there was a lady in a wheelchair and smiling, smiling, and my Devin smiled all the time. CP children just seem so happy, and she was full grown, and she just sat there and she smiled and smiled, and every time she smiled I had to cover my face because I just kept crying. And I had a girl sit next to me. She went up and she got me tissues, and I just went through tissues and tissues. And then when when we went back, they let me relax. They didn't make me do anything. I just sat there and I cried for about an hour. Sometimes a good cry is what you need. But that's my story. That's my anxiety. That's my part of my PTSD. I haven't even touched the surface with the PTSD, but my two boys dying, that was the start. And honestly, it will never go away. Ever, ever, ever. But I think I'm going to end this now. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment. I would appreciate if you would subscribe and like this video. Even share it if you want to. But comments, questions, whatever, I'm here to answer them. I am, in April, I will be working on trying to become a Superior Port person that will help people like us. So yeah, if you could do that, subscribe, like, comment, share, I would appreciate that. If not, okay too. I would just appreciate you to see it. So yeah, you all have a very wonderful night or morning or afternoon or whatever it is. Don't know where you all are. I'm going to go now, and I'll see you again. Bye.